All right, and so I get the privilege of introducing our guest speaker. So you've heard his name a couple times, maybe even met him in the workout, in the breakout room. But I just really want you guys are in for a treat because I hope you have your notes and your pens and getting ready to take notes or however it is you capture. But when I first met Matt, which came through Whitney, by the way, we knew we needed someone to speak about this whole topic of property management, the things that you need to do to protect your asset, right? Because it's one thing if you have a full run property, but as you start to grow, you realize, you're just one person. And so it's incredibly important to have systems in place. But then begs the question, well, what systems and how do you figure all that out? And Matt here, when we spoke with him, it was very clear that even though he does has not a lot of military affiliation, he is definitely has gone through all the things to figure this out for himself. Having gotten started in his backyard over in Portland, Oregon, starting at what, 7 properties as of 2021, and then traveled to New York, fell in love with New York, and was like, gosh, do I want to keep them? Or do I need to do things to be able to keep, to be that remote landlord? Is that something you really want to do? And so he'll definitely share with you how he came, his journey in that. And at the end of the day, it is clear that he's been able to figure that out for himself because now he's standing at 46 units. And, for those of us on this call, if you could imagine, if you already have one or two in your belt and the things that you do to do those, what it takes to be able to scale to the level that he's at. And so we are very, very grateful to have Matt on this call today. I know you guys probably have tons of questions. I heard a lot of them during our breakout room. Please use this time to either put your questions in the chat. So we're going to let Matt do his piece, and then when we transition to the live Q&A, we'll go through capturing those questions, and then Matt will be able to engage with us for those questions. All right, so get your notepads ready, get your pens ready. Matt, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, good afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you are joining from. And it's an honor to present for you guys. I want to first off, I know there's a ton of military people on this call, so I want to say thank you for your service. But my name is Matt Cox. I'm out of New York City. That's where I'm joining you from today. And I'm going to talk about how to be a remote landlord in 2025. So let's start from the beginning. All right, I'm gonna start by asking a couple questions to you guys, and I encourage you to please be active in the chat. Use the chat feature. So let's start off with on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the best. Is this good advice or bad advice? The first one: if you want it done right, do it yourself. Go ahead. I'll give you a second to put 1 to 5 in the chat. Okay. Second one, another piece of advice we get: only invest in your own backyard. Give you a second to enter that. Okay. Everybody's had a fair chance. I'm going to tell you why these are both horrible pieces of advice and why you're actually at an advantage as a remote landlord. Okay. Most people get into real estate for passive income. We hear that term over and over: passive income, passive income. And what people end up doing is they actually end up a low paying side hustle or a second job. So I'm going to show you how and why. My story. As Ann mentioned, I am from Oregon. For me personally, real estate started off as a side gig. I was working my 9 to 5 job in Portland, Oregon, and I bought my first rental. It was a single family home in my hometown of Salem, Oregon. At the time, I had no designs on making this into a big business. I honestly just saw it as a way to own an asset and put it toward my retirement. So that was 2018. A couple years later in 2020, I'm at my corporate sales job, and this one thing called COVID, you might have heard of it, hit in 2020. And at that time, I realized in my sales job, I was not going to be making any commissions for the foreseeable future, and I needed to find a new or different way to make some money. So I had a couple things with my situation. I knew I needed to make more money, and I had a ton of free time. You can probably relate to that. Maybe not if you're military. I don't know how, maybe you guys were busier during COVID, but I had a lot of time, and I started just listening to podcasts. I must have listened to 200 Bigger Pockets episodes. Started reading books, educating myself. But most importantly, I took action during that time and started buying more deals and scaling. So that was 2020. In 21, I moved to New York City on the day of a monumental flood. That's what's pictured right there. If you are wondering, that's the subway system. I've never seen it rain that hard in my life. That was the day I moved. So I was moving to NYC. I officially on September 1st of 21, I officially became a remote landlord. And my first instinct was my properties are in Oregon. I'm in New York. I need to sell everything. And so at that time, I had 8 doors. Today, we have 46 and are under contract on 18 more. And that totals 8 figures worth of real estate and counting. So I have 8x'd my portfolio since moving across the country. So, how did we get here while being on the other side of the country? Truth is that moving away from my properties was the best thing that ever happened for my business. And I'm an open book. If you're here, I want you to buy real estate. I want you to build wealth. And so I'm going to tell you precisely how I did this. And spoiler alert, you don't have to be a genius to do any of it. You just have to take action. So step one in this process is to understand which of the 3 phases of entrepreneurship you're currently in. And I think a lot of people will be able to relate just from talking in the breakout rooms. So the 3 phases, what are they? We've got the hustler, the engineer, and the architect. Let's break them down. Phase one is the hustler. That is, of course, Jay-Z right there. And he ironically used to rap about being a hustler, and he is a full-on architect these days. He owns countless businesses. But the simple way to understand the hustler phase is when you're in the hustler phase, if you walk away from your phone or your computer for one day, maybe even a couple hours, the entire thing falls off the tracks. You're not really building a business, you're building a job. You are a solopreneur, you are the business. Okay. Phase two, that's the engineer. Now, the way to think about this one is you could probably turn your phone off for a few days. You might even be able to turn it off for a week. Your business may not necessarily flourish while you're doing that, but things are not going to completely fall off the tracks. And this is why I say you're an advantage is because, there's a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. And for you, it's a necessity. You have to advance to the engineer phase or your business flat out will not work. You don't have the option to be the hustler. Okay, phase three. This is where we want to get to. The architect. That is our man, Sir Richard Branson, right there. He owns, I think, over 100 businesses, and he is the definition of an architect. And what does that mean? Again, to use the phone analogy, at this point, the business runs itself. You could turn your phone and your laptop off for 2 months, probably. Turn off for 2 years, and the business is going to keep running without you because you've built out systems and other things we're going to talk about later in this presentation. So speaking for myself, right now, I'm probably in the late engineer, early architect phase. I'm definitely not on Sir Richard's level, that's for sure. So to backtrack a little bit, I want to tell you a story to take you back to mid 2023. I was at a bit of a breaking point in mid 23. I was still handling tenant phone calls, maintenance calls. Every tenant had my personal number. People were texting me at all hours to tell me a dog was barking outside, the trash guy wasn't nice to them, whatever it was. And this whole thing was trending toward me selling all my real estate. I was kind of over it, to put it bluntly. And so at this point, I had 15 doors and I was still living in the hustler stage. Okay. My fiance and I, this is in June, we had booked a trip to Greece that September. And in June, when all this was happening, and I was almost at my breaking point. I said, I'm going to have my business set up to run by itself by September. And I did it. And I tell you this not to just tell you I did, but to prove that this is not rocket science. I did it in 3 months, and any of you can do it as well. So let's get into that. How do we move our business forward? As a business grows, any business, but obviously we're talking about real estate today, but as your business grows, you become the bottleneck in your own business. You're the hustler. The business can't function without you. So if the system, using my example, if the system is ask Matt what to do, or have Matt call somebody, or have Matt hop in, you cannot grow. There is one of you, and there are countless things to do. And there are going to be more things to do as you add more properties to your portfolio. So at the end of the day, if your goal is to own one rental, you can probably do that, maybe two. But if you want to do this at scale and build long-term wealth, you do have to start building it like a business. And I encourage you to do that sooner than later. Don't be like me and wait till you have 15 doors to do it. So how do we do this? What's our answer? There's three things: people, systems, and tech. Excuse me. So let's start with people. This is the most important one. People, let's talk about your on the ground team. So we're not on the ground, right? We can be on the other side of the world like many of you are from your rentals, but you don't have to be on the ground, but you need people there. So the first part of your team is your broker. And I could do a whole presentation on how to underwrite a deal properly. There's tons of calculators out there. If you guys any of you need help, DM me. I'm happy to help you with anything. But if you want to talk about how to underwrite deals or anything like that, shoot me a DM. But the point is, you need to work in conjunction with your broker to create a buy box. If you're wondering what a buy box is, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a defined box that if my property meets these characteristics, I am going to buy it. And it's important to know that might be totally different for different people. One person's buy box might be single family homes that are positive cash flow in Salem, Oregon, my hometown, and they're under 350 grand, let's say. Someone else's might be 100-unit apartments that sell at 2 caps in downtown Manhattan. So everyone's is different, but you need to define it. And the reason for that is if you don't have a defined buy box, it's very hard for you to execute. You're going to get stuck in analysis paralysis. You get deals that come across your plate and they're good deals, but you don't act because you haven't defined what you're actually looking to buy. And the same thing can happen on the other side. You can miss out on good deals or you can buy bad deals. So create that buy box, work with your broker. And if you find a good broker and provide this to them, they're going to bring you deals that fit that. Okay, that's the first part of your team is your broker. The second one is the lender. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. If you find a good broker, they're going to have good lender relationships. Of course, we need lenders unless you're going to be a cash buyer. The third one, your contractors. You need to find contractors who you can trust. And let me say this clearly, they need to earn your trust. The first contractor you find, don't just assume that they're going to handle everything and that, there's a lot of good ones, there's a lot of bad ones. So a good rule of thumb with this, when you're starting out, if you're going to have someone walk a project or do a bid for you, send multiple contractors there, get multiple bids. Then when you're down the road, you can build that trust. I have two main general contractor teams that I've worked with forever. And we're at a point now where I can send them to a property. My guy, his name's Phil. Phil will tell, hey, Matt, the roof is shot here. Hey, Matt, don't buy this. I'm worried there's termites, whatever. We're at that point, but you will not be at that point day one. So trust but verify, as they say, but you need contractors. And then the fourth one, you need an odd jobs and showings specialist. This is a fairly easy one to hire for. Can be a family friend. They basically need basic people skills. They need to be responsible and be able to show up somewhere on time. But this is the person who's going to handle your showings. They'll handle your move-in walkthroughs. They'll go if you need somebody to pick up a check for you, to make extra keys to a unit, whatever it is. Okay, so that's your on the ground team. This is your most important hire. And I scream this from the rooftops: virtual assistants. Getting used to using virtual assistants completely changed my business. If I had hired this position sooner, like when I was starting out, I would be so much farther. And we're in the process. We have two right now. We literally just had interviews today. We're in the process of hiring our third and fourth. Our first one, her name's Angela. She's out of the Philippines. She's been with us 2.5 years now. She's amazing. She's changed my business. And the way to think about this, we talk about leverage in real estate, usually in the context of taking out a loan. We take out leverage so we can buy more properties. But leverage comes not just from loans, it comes from people. You can leverage people to grow your business. And she has revolutionized my business. We have, like I said, a 46 unit portfolio that mostly runs by itself. So think about the possibilities that opens up for me, because I'm not on the phone handling leaky sinks or filling out leases or stuff like that. It allows me to do things like come on this webinar, or go out and raise money from investors for our larger apartment deals, or create my podcast or my blog, or there's life stuff too. It's not just business. To travel, to be able to go to the gym, be able to go read a book, it frees up your time. Okay, so I get this question a lot. When do I hire? When's the right time to hire a virtual assistant? So this book, it's called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. The book and the formula changed the entire way I thought about business. And I actually hired Angela the second I finished the book. So I want you to do an exercise with me if you could. Get out your calculator, probably in your phone. I don't think most of us carry regular calculators anymore. So get out your phone calculator for me, okay? Give you a second. Okay, so first number I want you to enter is your income goal for, we'll say for 2026, for a full year. And make it, push yourself, but make it realistic. Don't say $100 million. Make it something you can achieve. Okay, now take that first number, divide it by 2,000. And the reason we use 2,000 is because there's 50 weeks in the year. If we take 2 weeks for a vacation, and there's 40 hours in each week, 40 times 50, 2,000. Got that? Now take that number and divide it by 4. And once you have that, just save it in your phone notes, or if you have a little pad of paper next to you, go ahead and write it down. Give me a second. Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay, so I touched on that book. It's called Buy Back Your Time, and you can read the whole book if you want to. In fact, I'd encourage you to. But here's the gist of it, is that you need to stop doing things that don't move the dial for your business. And an easy way to think about this is, if there's nothing special about it that makes you uniquely qualified to perform the task, or it doesn't make you a bunch of money because you're doing it, why are you doing it? So if you can see the graphic here to the left, I'll run through it really quickly, but on the x-axis, you'll see lights you up. So something lights you up, you're excited about it, it energizes you. On the y-axis, makes you money. That's self-explanatory. So the area we want to live in is this production zone in the top right. Those are things that light you up and make you money. Those are the tasks you don't give away ever. That's your superpower in business. They say that's like your best and highest use. Okay. The opposite of that, this is the delegation zone in the bottom left. These are the things you should have given away yesterday. They are menial tasks. They don't make you a lot of money. They're not exciting for you. And the key part, you can hire someone to do it immediately. These are plug and play tasks you can get rid of. In the bottom right, the investment zone. These are tasks or things that you do that don't directly make you money, but you like them and they might help you earn money down the road. So this webinar is a perfect example. You're not getting paid to be here, but you might make a connection that you partner with someone on a deal, or you raise money from whatever it is. For me, it's like my podcast and my blog are examples of that. Um, and then in the top left is the replacement section. This is similar to delegation. It's stuff you can get out of your hands, but it's a little bit more high level, meaning you'll need to train someone a little bit more for it. That could be something like learning how to underwrite deals or something like that. It's a little higher expertise. Okay. So today I'm all about when we do stuff like this, leaving you with something very actionable. So we're going to focus on delegation today. So go back to that number from 2 slides ago. Okay. Everybody got it? Okay. So you got that number in your head. You don't need to put it in the chat or anything, but I'm going to go ahead and guess it's probably higher than $5. And it might be higher than $10. But point being, that is the cost to hire someone to handle the delegation zone for you. $5 to $10. And to be clear, you don't just have to use that time to work and make more money. You can if you want to. But a thing to think about, like, what's the value of more time with your kids or spouse? Or what's the value of your phone not going off while you're at dinner because a sink is leaking, or you're at the gym, or you're at the park? Those are all things to consider. So delegation zone, get that stuff out of your hands and start running it like a business. And you can take it anywhere with you. I can run my business from New York, Oregon, Europe, Asia. And I know because I have. You can take this anywhere with you. So the next thing I usually get from people is, wait, but I don't have enough stuff to give to them. And the truth on this is you have no idea how much time you're actually spending on these tasks. Every time I hire someone, I start them part-time because I don't think I have enough to give them. And they almost usually within 1 to 2 months, they're full-time. And if you're really struggling to come up with ideas, here's an exercise you can do. It's called a time audit. And so all you do for 1 week, you set a timer next to your desk or wherever you work from. And every 15 minutes, write down what you're doing. Okay. Then at the end of the week, you're going to go through and highlight every task. We'll go back here that falls into that delegation zone in the bottom left. Boom. You've just discovered all the things you're doing that you should be hiring out. Okay, so the next question is, how do I hire a VA? And we have a rule on this one. You have to work with me before you can work with me. I know you said, what the heck does that mean? So we're going through this process right now. Like I said, we're hiring 2 more assistants. So to start off, you design the position based on the delegation box. So you take that list of everything that you just highlighted, and you literally create a job description from that. You can even throw it into AI and make it look pretty. Then we're going to post it on a site such as Upwork, or there are even websites that specialize in VAs. You can use one of those, but you're going to get a bunch of applicants. And so here's the key part. Remember, I mentioned you work with me before you can work with me. You're going to do an interview and you're going to ask some questions, but interviews are very hard to gauge people. People can fake interviews. So you're going to verify by having them do some work for you. And the key with any employee you hire is whether they can replace you or if they need to be babysat, right? That delegation zone, the entire point is we want to delegate to them. But if you're having to jump in all the time, you're not really delegating. So a test I use, I call this the leaky sink test. Write that down. That'll stick with you. Leaky sink test is, and we're using it right now. What you do, you get through the interview. If they pass your initial interview screening, you give them a task and the leaky sink. So we'll say, we'll use a real example from one of our properties. We have a leaky sink at 123 Main Street. Here's the tenant's phone number. Go get it solved for us. And the quick test to see if they're resourceful and they're a self-starter is that they will call up the tenant and they'll set the whole thing up and they'll Google plumbers in the area and they'll handle the entire thing. If they come to you and say, who should I use? What do I do? That's probably a sign that they're not able, frankly, to be resourceful or be a self-starter. And my VAs that I've hired, I mean, they'll watch it. There's so much information at our fingertips now. They'll go watch a video, a YouTube video, or ask AI. I mean, they just learn things so well and so quickly by utilizing the information that's at all of our fingertips. So that's how you hire. Now, okay, so that's part one. Remember, we talked about people, systems, and tech. Second part is systems, which Anne was talking about. This is so important. And I want you to brace yourselves because systems are the most boring part of business. And it's a hard topic to make entertaining, but it is so necessary. So systems, what do we actually need in order to operate a rental or multiple rentals? It's on the screen right there. And that's what we love about real estate. There's other businesses like if you run a gym or a restaurant, there are so many moving parts. In rental real estate, there are only so many moving parts you have to account for. It's not a complex game, but here's the key to any system. Okay, there's 2 points here. One, it has to be replicable, and two, it has to be written down. If it's not written down, it doesn't count. The classic example of this, think of McDonald's, right? We're all scattered all over the world. You go anywhere, you see the golden arches, you know exactly what you're getting when you walk through there. And that's because they have systems. They literally have a system for how the onions get placed on the burger or how long the bun sits on the oven or sits on top of the stove before they put it on the patty. Everything is systematized. And so for us, excuse me, we have a system for screening tenants. We have a system for tenant move-ins. We have a system for how you greet someone when you arrive at a tenant showing. Everything is written down. We have a whole Google Drive of this. And if something new, a new situation arises that we haven't run into before, we create a new system. The idea is you could hire someone tomorrow, hand them these documents, and they could do the job. So, perfect example, your tenant screening can't be based on how you feel that day. You need to have a system. This is what your credit has to be. This is what your income has to be. You can't play it willy-nilly based on your mood on a day-to-day basis. Same thing with evictions, same thing with repairs. So at the end of the day, people don't collect rent, systems do. People don't send eviction notices, systems do that. So this works when we have 10 doors, it works when we have 46, okay? So that's part two, systems. So people, systems, tech. Tech is the third one. And this is the shortest part of the presentation because we don't frankly use that many different pieces of technology. We have Google Office, which hosts all of our internal documents and systems that I described. We call them our playbooks or our systems. We keep our spreadsheets, some financials and stuff, and of course have a company Gmail in there. The second one is Buildium. That's a tenant portal. So just think anyone here I'm sure almost everyone here has rented an apartment or a home at some point in your life, but that is when you go to log in and pay your rent and submit a maintenance request, that's where you're going. We're just on the other side of it now as landlords. That's a tenant portal. So do that sooner than later. You don't have to use Buildium. That's just the one I use, but get a tenant portal. Don't be like me where you're spending 3 years collecting rents on Venmo and texting tenants that their rent's late. Systematize everything, get the necessary tech to do it. Okay, so in summary, those are the 3 pillars of any business: people, systems, and technology. If you hit on these 3 points, it is pretty much impossible for you to fail. So this is how I end every conversation. I get people that hit me up all the time on LinkedIn or Instagram and schedule calls with me. And everything I presented today, I hope it helps you. It will help you if you institute it. But at the end of the day, action is the highest form of intelligence. And a great thing to get through your head that shifted my whole mindset is that you will make mistakes in this business. And that doesn't matter. You will learn 100 times more from buying a deal than you will from reading 1,000 books or listening to 1,000 podcasts. So everybody that's on this call, go ahead and screenshot that. That's my personal number, personal email. Reach out anytime you would like, and I'm happy to help anybody. Just when you call me or message me, just be prepared to take action. I get people sometimes that call me and they're like, well, like how many, I'm working on a company logo, or I need more, I'm printing business cards. And I'm like, that's great. You can do that later, but you need to do things that move the dial. And that is means you need to be out looking at deals and buying deals. So, like I said, screenshot that, reach out anytime. I love talking to people about real estate, and I'm happy to help anybody with anything in this presentation or otherwise. Questions?
Awesome, Matt. You even landed right on the dot. That's awesome in terms of the time. You were like 30 minutes
Oh,
in.
good.
Yeah, no, good job. Before we switch you off the screen, I think there's a request. There was one slide. It was your system slide. Would you mind going back to that slide? And then we need you to adjust your look where your head
Oh,
because we actually there you go. There you go. And so everyone, screenshot this slide. This is the one that he was really harping on. Uh, and
got
this
it.
is what you really want to know. Everyone good? Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you so much, Matt. All right, so now we're gonna start the live Q&A portion. I know some of you probably already have some stuff going on in your head and things that you want to ask Matt. Feel free to use the chat. This is how we want to use it to get people going, and so that we're not kind of talking over each other or doing the whole like, "Oop, up, up." Yeah, we don't want that. We try to make it smooth. So if you can, go ahead and start putting your questions. And we actually did get some questions during the registration, so I think I'll kick off with that. But as people go ahead and input in there, and we will call you as we see it. So, um,
And
Matt,
do you want me to close this out or leave it open?
yeah,
So
no,
do you want me?
go ahead and close it out. I'm going to
Okay.
share my screen, um, and that will bring us back to. All right. Okay, so here's so I know Matt shared his information. We also have it here, so feel free to screenshot this one as well. And so I'm going to start with the questions. Yeah, I'm gonna get the chat open so people can chime in there. But I'm going to start with the questions that came up in the registration. So the first question for you, Matt, is um, okay, so the question was, what tool or resource do you use to manage rentals remotely or for tenant communication? So I think I heard you shared you use Buildium. Would you mind sharing why you chose Buildium over, let's say, I think there's quite a handful of property management software out there, but what was it about Buildium that made you select that platform?
So to be completely honest with you, I just talked to a friend who's a real estate investor and asked him what he used, and he sent me Buildium. I think I did a demo. So I can't, that's the only one I've worked with. I can't speak to other ones. I'm sure there's other good ones. What I really like about Buildium though, it's a very understandable, user-friendly interface if you're not super techy, which is the case with me. It's very easy to, it's very intuitive. It's not overly expensive. It's got every feature you need. It's got accounting, of course, rent collection, the basics, but it's got accounting. It's got automations. I mean, it's a really um, excellent piece of software. But yeah, I can't speak to any other ones. I can just tell you Buildium's good.
Okay. And when you can you share when you started building, like how many doors you had when you started, and then and if there was any features that specifically to Buildium that you used that helped you scale?
Yeah, so I started Buildium right in mid-June, the story from my or mid-June of 23, the
Oh,
story from my presentation where I was almost at a breaking point and it changed my business. I'll give you a few specifics like you asked for. Um, Rent collection. I set up my business bank accounts, I sync them up with Buildium. The tenants get a message that rent is due. It sends that if rent's late, it automatically sends that message. I'm not texting them and asking about rent. So it took care of that piece. And then the second one is the maintenance request. That I mean, that's a game changer. When you hit, that's why I tell you guys, don't wait until you're at 15 doors before you start running this like a business. Um, but it centralizes everything in one place. It gets rid of the whole haphazard people texting you out of nowhere, and it just organizes your life. And if you take my advice and hire an assistant, it organizes their life as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all those details, Matt. So it looks like we got a lot more questions in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and refer to the chat. So the next question we got here is from Wei. Um, could you go into more details about the systems you built for tenant screening, repairs, maintenance, legal rent that makes you successful or avoid failure points in the entire process?
Yeah, we'll take those one by one. So tenant screening, we use the screening software through Zillow. It's really solid. So you need to screen for credit, credit, income, background check, eviction history, and and rental references. So we go, if you're 600 credit, 3x, your income's 3x rent, and you have no eviction history or no violent crimes, you're automatically accepted. If you have, say, you're 2.7 times income, but your credit's 780, then we'll probably accept you as well. But at least set a rules of thumb around that for credit, income, and then if somebody has an eviction, just like there's no negotiation for us. We just don't do it because it's in the state of Oregon. Having to evict somebody is an absolute drain on your business. So that's tenant screening, repairs and maintenance. Our system. So we've built, and this is when I tell you write everything down. Over the years, we've written down at least every good contractor that we've used. If they're bad, we don't add them to our system. But we have a database now of people that can do everything: plumbers, GCs, drywall, electricians. Put them all in one place. If it's usually or not usually, our system is if we have a job with a contractor we've worked with over and over, we'll like there's one guy in particular, we trust him enough, we'll take his bid. But if we're getting a new contractor or someone we haven't worked with a ton and it's a sizable bid, if it's $200, we're not gonna haggle over it back and forth. But if it's a sizable bid, we always get two and sometimes three bids for a maintenance job. As far as legal, that's a good one. Yeah, this one took us a while. The number one legal thing you're gonna have to deal with is evictions. We've been lucky enough to not have many, and that's because back to the first part I talked about, we screen tenants very strictly. Because it's eviction. When you have to do an eviction, no one wins. In all likelihood, you're never gonna get the back rent you're owed. You're gonna spend on legal. So the best way to prevent legal is to screen tenants properly, but you need to be prepared for if and when it does happen, because it will happen.
All good stuff, Matt. Thank you. Uh, Next question is from Giancarlo. He asked, how did you handle tenants not paying rent during COVID? If you had that, was that a scenario for you?
Yeah, so ironically, during COVID, we had pretty much no issues with that. I shouldn't say we had no issues, but the couple tenants that did, it wasn't a lot. But they applied for the whatever program that was. I can't remember if it was through the state of Oregon or through the federal government, but they got their rent paid, so it wasn't much of an issue actually.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. I will share for me personally. I actually had one tenant that took advantage of the eviction moratorium and basically chose not to pay rent for an entire year. And I will tell you, I basically had to eat it. So I had to have enough cash reserves to cover, the cost of ownership because that tenant was not only not paying rent, effect. So that was definitely a hard lesson learned. But the way that thankfully, that particular property had enough rental income and I had enough reserves to cover. But it's definitely hard. I think as a landlord when stuff like that happens, but it does happen.
Yeah, and I'll touch on one more thing with screening. We always think of tenant screening being important for if someone stops paying rent. But the even, at least in my experience, the even more damaging thing than someone not paying rent is if they destroy your unit. That has happened as well. I mean, I've gotten, what, not seven figure, sorry, five figure bills when tenants move out. And that will, I mean, you do the math on that. That's, half a year of rent if somebody messes up your unit that bad. So that's why you don't, you check on their rental history too and call their old landlords and make sure they haven't destroyed any buildings in the past.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you. And that actually ties into the next question. So Sarah Hansen asks, what do you use to do background type checks for tenants?
But we just use Zillow. Zillow has all of this built in. So yeah, pretty short answer, but yeah, just Zillow.
Okay. So if someone were to use Zillow, what is that process? Like, is it a subscription payment that you pay for the service?
So Zillow is free up. I forgot who I was talking to in one of the breakout rooms, but it's still we have 46 units and it's still free for us. So I couldn't figure somebody told me it's you're supposed to pay for it at 10 units or more, but I don't know if we slipped through the cracks or what, but they haven't charged me for it. And it's really good. It's got messaging, it's got applications, it's got everything you need in there.
So, Sarah, did you have any follow-on questions to that? Okay, if you do,
Sorry,
Sarah.
no, I didn't have any follow-on questions. He kind of covered that
Okay.
now twice. So good. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. Next question is from Wei. She asks, how do you divide the VA, so your virtual assistant's duties?
That's a great question because we're dealing with it right now. And we've hit a point where my two VAs are overwhelmed, like they have too much work, and that's why we're hiring. And so the key for any hiring position is people need to have very defined roles. And you've heard the saying, right? If everyone's responsible, then no one's responsible. So we've divided right now. I have two VAs. One of them is entirely responsible for the rental portfolio. My second VA handles our marketing and social media. So he runs my Instagram, he produces my podcasts, he does all that stuff. Now, the part we're having to figure out right now that's going to make it a little bit more complicated is that one of our new hires is going to help with the property management side of the business. So we need to be very clear in defining. So Angela is my current VA there, what Angela is responsible for and what the new hire is responsible for. So the way we're still kind of workshopping it, but the way we're looking at structuring it is Angela is going to remain responsible for everything after move in. Okay. All tenant communications, maintenance requests, and the new hire is going to handle everything prior to move in. So handling incoming applications or showing requests. So it's just like I talked about with systems, defining roles and putting it very clearly in writing and who's responsible for what, who owns what. That is good because you're nothing will, I mean, I've been there as an employee. Nothing frustrates people more than not knowing who's in charge of what and being all over the place and something goes wrong and someone gets blamed, but they don't even know that it was their job to begin with. So put it in writing, very clearly defined.
So I have a follow-on question to that, Matt. Because yeah, I definitely agree. And we're sort of going through that right now too, is in hiring a VA and defining those roles. How are you communicating that? Because it sounds like you've built out the system. I heard you say you have everything on Google Drive. So when you meet the VA and you decide and you're defining those roles, like, do you also communicate like, all right, here's the team, like, here's you and your role. Like, do you have like an org chart and you communicate that? Like, how are you sharing that with the new people that you're bringing on board?
Yeah, so this is perfect timing because we did 4 interviews today.
Mm.
We do share like this is who your direct report is going to be. You're gonna so we're so with only two VAs where we are right now, there really wasn't a need for like a full-on org chart. But now we're hitting that point where we need to let people know, new hire, you're going to report up through Angela, or new hire, my social media marketing guy, his name is Jay, you're going to report up through Jay. So we are having to get more serious about building that org chart out. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great.
And then just one quick follow-up to that too. So when you bring somebody on board, right, like access to your Google Drive, Buildium, were there any issues with doing that for people you're bringing on board? Like, because do you have to like create a new email address for them, or do you have like a team type address and you just give them access to that one?
Yeah, so we have a process for onboarding, and we have, some documents that they sign, an employment agreement, and then part of that process is we create a company email for them. If applicable, we give them a Buildium or sorry, not admin access, user access. If they're like this other hire who's going to be helping with social media, we'll give them Instagram access. So we have a whole process built out for how we onboard people.
Awesome. All
Uh,
good stuff. Go ahead, Wei.
oh, sorry. I think we also want to ask, like, how do you protect your information to be secure?
Yeah, that's important. I mean, I love my VAs, but you do, you need to trust people, but you need to protect yourself too. I don't give them any information that could potentially get me in trouble. I mean, they have access to like they can know how much money's in some of our bank accounts and things like that, but they can't transfer money from a bank account. I do I do know people who have set things up where like there's tools you can use. For example, if you want your VA to be able to spend up to $200 or something without contacting you about it, there are tools to do that. But yeah, I mean, I don't, you got to protect yourself. You just never know. So you don't give people free reign on your bank accounts or, social security numbers, stuff like that. It's just good business practices.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So looks like next question is from Ian. So his question is, are your assistants paid hourly or salary, and what percentage of your profits goes towards assistant pay?
They are paid hourly. I'll give them bonuses sometimes. So for example, we have a 10 unit that we just purchased, and Angela is like very hard at work getting that building stabilized. And if and when she does it, I'm going to give her a bonus. So I'll do bonuses for special things like that. But standard is hourly. As far as what percentage of profits, yeah, it's frankly, it's very low. I told you, you can hire this position for you can hire this position for $5 an hour tomorrow if you wanted to. My assistants get more than that because they've been with me, and frankly, I like them and want to reward them, and I want them to feel at home here. And Angela's been with us 2.5 years, but you can fill this position for $5 an hour.
Matt, may I ask, how did you find Angela? Was that through Upwork, or did you use a agency of some sort?
I used an agency called VA House. And then once her contract with, or I should say our contract with VA House ran out, I just messaged her and I was like, hey, this is going, do you want to just come work for me full time? And now I can pay you more because we're not having to pay half of it to VA House. So that's how I did it. And then since then, she introduced me to Jay, who I brought on as our next VA. And now basically all of the people we're interviewing are also colleagues of theirs. So it kind of, so when it comes to hiring, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but when it comes to hiring, I think there's no better way to hire than through referrals. And so if you start hiring people, good people know good people, and they've worked with other good people in the past, and it starts to compound on itself. And we're building a team all just out of Angela and Jay's network.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Okay, let's see. We still have some time for some questions. So let's see. Ian, he concurred on using Zillow for screening tenants. So great to get an additional endorsement on that. Giancarlo has another question. He says, so you use Zillow and Buildium for PM software, or you just use Buildium for payments and Zillow for everything else?
Great question. So we use Buildium for, well, let me put it this way. We use Zillow for everything before the tenant moves in. So applications, screening, showings. Then we use Buildium after they've moved in. There are honestly, we're not doing it in the most efficient way. There's a way to do it where you should never have to exit Buildium, and we should be doing that, but we've just the way we've always done things is we take applications uh, through Zillow, and then once they officially become a tenant and enter a lease with us, we onboard them into Buildium.
Oh, yeah, that's good. So Doug asked a question. He says, can you go into detail on hiring a VA in the Philippines? Strictly, oh, that was sort of the question I had too, but um, he specifically asked, how much can they do from day-to-day operations slash rental contracts or collections, etc.
Like any hiring, there are really good candidates and there's not so good ones. What I can tell you is if you hire right for a VA, you will be amazed at how, for one, how smart, but two, how resourceful and hardworking they are. I mean, you can hire people who have had have what's like the equivalent of an MBA in the Philippines. They know how to do accounting. They know how to. So now I talked about systems. These days, I don't even. So now Angela builds our systems. She's created whole systems that the company operates on. So I mean, the answer to your question. By the way, Doug, I'm glad you're on here. For those that don't know, Doug is my cousin who lives in Hawaii. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, they fill out all my leases. I wouldn't have them, you don't want to have them do like legal work. You need an attorney to do that. But they can do pretty much any, just think of it this way. If there's a video on YouTube on how to do something, they can do it because they are that hardworking and resourceful, and they'll go there and they'll figure out how to do just about anything.
Nice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Doug, did you have any to that question and what Matt shared?
No, all good.
Sweet. All right, and then we have another question. I think we have room for maybe one or two more questions. So Ian, and this is more for the group, but he says, does anyone that screens tenants themselves charge an admin fee for processing applicants?
Yes, people do. I don't. We probably should because that's another thing that we don't do that we absolutely should. Because every time I have to send someone over there, it costs money, it costs my staff time. And it's also a good way to make sure people are serious, even if it doesn't need to be a ton of money. But if somebody has skin in the game in the form of an application fee, they're less likely to just waste your time or be tire kickers. So to answer your question, we don't do it. We should. It's definitely best practices to do that though.
Yeah.
In
Ian,
fact,
did you think of
I'm gonna write that down right now because we should have been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, no, good stuff. So it looks like we're wrapping here on time. So Matt, my next question for you is what's next for you? I mean, so you got these systems in place. It looks like you're hiring. So what does the next 3 to 6 months look like for you?
We are buying, we're scaling. We just closed on that 10 unit. I mean, my path has been probably similar to a lot of people. Started off buying single family and then small plex, and now we're going larger. And I'm really, really excited about Oregon right now, Portland in particular, because it is selling at depressed prices. that we could not have dreamed of a few years ago. So we have offers out on 4 or 5 different properties right now. So we are trying to buy anything we can get our hands on in that area, because I think you buy now, in 3 to 5 years, I think you're going to be very thankful you did. So we're trying to scale at the moment.
Yeah. So, and is that more residential properties or more commercial?
I mean, it's commercial. There people live there, but it's commercial in the sense that it's 5+ units.
So multifamily, so they're apartments?
Multifamily, yes,
Okay.
exactly. So like we're really focused on like the 10 to 30 unit space right now.
Okay. Awesome. No, that's really good to know, Matt. Well, one, I'm super excited for you too.
Nice.
When you shared, how you basically made a decision while you're on that trip in Greece, and with that decision, just committing and getting systems in place, the fact that you were able to do it in 3 months, so to know what you were able to achieve in 3 months, once you made that decision, to now hearing your excitement, and then the market, right? The market's in your favor, right? If you have that buy box. So super awesome. Well, and everyone, I'm just going to bring your attention back to the slide here, because this is a way that you can stay in touch with Matt. You've heard his story, you hear his journey, his strategy, the things that he's put in place. And so we can continue to follow him and see how he does over the next 3-6 months. And maybe we bring you back on here, Matt, and we hear like
I'd
you're
love
like
to.
double. So no, that's good stuff. All right, so we're going to get into the closing portion here. This is where we want to just ask your feedback. We've been doing this as a team, so everyone on here is a volunteer, and we do this because this is a way that we're able to give back, able to learn from each other and kind of engage. And we wouldn't be where we are if we didn't get feedback from our community. And so, Wei, I think you have a poll set up. Did you want to go ahead and do that real quick?
Sure.
So Wei's going to put up our poll, and this is where we would like to get feedback from you. In particular, the topics. So this is the last topic we're doing for this year, for 2025, but we're definitely going to be doing, deciding on the program for 2026. We only do this every other month, and so we really want to put together topics and events that are relevant, things that you would like to participate. So help us kind of identify and narrow down, because if you've been in real estate investing even for a little bit, you'll know that it can be completely overwhelming. There's so many topics and there's so many different pathways. There is not just one. And so if you would just share with us what it is what you'd be interested in hearing more about, that would be super helpful. And our team here will get together over the course of the next week, and we'll be pulling together your feedback and determining the program for 2026. All right, so let's go ahead. Wei, do I close this out or do you? Oh, still getting some responses?
Yeah, I'm still getting responses. I'm gonna close out in the next 50 seconds, so you can go to the next slides.
Yep. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and go to the next slide. So this might be helpful. So these were the topics that we did for this year. And so we did the last of October, well, the how to be a remote landlord. We were able to put that in. But again, just to give you ideas of the topics that we talked about for this year. And again, based on your feedback, we will share kind of what we have going on for next year. The one that's highlighted in white, just to bring to your attention, is, most of us have met virtually. And some of us meet in person through the local chapters, but we always wanted to find a way for us to all come together across Japan, across Korea, Hawaii, and we've decided we're going to do it here on Guam. So we did this last year. We did have to pass on this year, but we are committed to doing it again in 2026. And so here you have the date. So go ahead and save that date for the next Asia Pacific Real Estate Investing Summit, which we'll have here on Guam. And this is just a little more detail. So it's going to be at the Hyatt Regency. So that was the event that we had last year. You got to see some highlights of that. And again, the way that we do this is that the whole goal is just engagement. We want to be able to meet everybody in person. What you're seeing in front of you right now is the program. So just to kind of give you a sneak peek, we're going to keep it the same. But the bottom line is it's 2 days. The day one is all about, it doesn't matter if you're just getting started or if you're looking to scale. We have keynote speakers who come in and talk about the personal development side because it's about mindset and how to go do that. And then we also have master classes, and we have 3 rounds of master classes, and this way you could kind of pick and choose your topics. All right, and then I'm going to turn it over to Whitney to share with us how to stay in touch with us.
Hey guys, thank you again, Matt, for coming. It was just honestly a pleasure having you, and we learned so much. I gotta say that before I jump into this. My mind is like expanded for sure now. If you guys want to follow along, we have amazing people like Matt joining us. We do these several times a year. On the screen here, you'll see our Instagram, our Facebook, our YouTube, at Asia Pacific Investor Network at YouTube, where we upload all recordings of all this. I know there's always people that text us afterwards that are like, I need the recording. So you'll find them uploaded there. It usually takes me about a week and I get it on there. And then obviously our email, if you want to reach out for any questions or collaborations, let us know.
Do you want to take this one too, Whitney?
Yeah. We're always looking for hosts. This community is super important because we're so spread out. Anne's been there, I've been there. Every one of the hosts has been there where we're in the middle in a new place, separated off the mainland, still interested in real estate. So if you are in that position and you're feeling interested in growing this group and getting people together, we're always looking for hosts. These are some of the locations that we currently don't have any gatherings at. So if you're in Kunsan, Misawa, Zama, Sasebo, Atsugi, anywhere in Korea and Japan, reach out, and we would love to get you connected. It's not a stressful thing. It's such a great community, so we'd love to have you. There's a QR code you can scan there, and that'll send it. It'll email me, and we can connect.
Thank you so much, Whitney. And I'll share just, where all this started was all of us shared that pain point of we're overseas, we had self-limiting beliefs, and we just didn't know what was possible. And as each of us started to meet each other, seeing the possibilities, now everyone who's been a part of this community has really grown, whether they started their business, but, Matt talked about it's all about taking action. And I think a lot of us in this community felt empowered to take action because we felt like we had other people to talk to about it. And so, hopefully you guys all had a chance to exchange contact information. Definitely continue that. This concludes the formal portion of the event. Thank you everyone for being here. As I said in the beginning, there's other things I know you could have been doing in your time, but you chose to be here. I hope this event was really valuable to you. I hope you walked away with some golden nuggets and things that you can do that are actionable. So you could start creating, either get started in your journey or take it to that next level. So thank you all for being here. Team Asia Pacific out.